I want to show you how to make the most delicious winter broth. This is a hearty soup that will fill you up. It will make you feel really, really good. A really therapeutic lunch or even dinner. It's so easy to buy it in a tin, in a jar, but actually making your own is so easy. Really, really nice. So it's still chilly. I would have a jacket on, but I've got the fire to heat me up. Conker's having a little sleep. So the basis of this beautiful hearty broth is a ham hock. And if you've never bought one before, please look for them. If you go to a butcher's or if you go to a market, you're gonna see these, right? Often stacked up high. Like this was £3.50. So this is the hock, what we would call like a shank on a lamb. This is like a hard-working part of the animal. You've got bone, you've got marrow, you've got all the little connective tissues, you've got the fat, and they salt these down and they smoke them, and they're just incredible bases to making your own broth. Whatever you make with this broth, whether it's a soup, a stew, a risotto, a minestrone, it's a thing of beauty. So pick them up. They're cheap and gorgeous. What I did was in this pan, I just covered it in cold water and I let it soak overnight, right? The next day, you throw away the water. I've now covered it with fresh water and I've just brought it up to a simmer. So this is the beginning of the story. So my goal as cook is to extract the most amount of flavour out of the bone, the skin and the meat. I'm going to simmer this for about 2.5 hours until that meat will fall off the bone, right? That's the time when I know things are good, okay? So let's add to this water to make this truly exceptional. So, herbs. Herbs are a beautiful thing. They're really cheap to buy. They're really amazing to grow. Those woody herbs, thyme, rosemary, sage, bay, you know, these are perennial herbs. They're really robust. If you've got them in your garden, you buy them once and you'll never pay for them ever again. I've got some parsley, which you'll have to get from the supermarket at this time of year, but I'll put that in there as well. Some bay leaf, love bay leaf, just a nice little click like that. And then I've got a couple of pieces of celery. Now these outer pieces of celery are always a bit stringy, right? So these are really fresh and a really nice fragrance. And I think this is a really good base to soups and stews. So just hold it together like that. Get yourself some string, right? And then we'll tie it up. Is it worth it? Yes. So that is a version of a bouquet garni, but essentially it's herby, it's fragrant. I might just do a little loop on the top so I can hang it from that hook so it's easy to remove later on. Before I put this in, let's have a little skim. As you're bringing this ham hock to the boil, you will get some scum on the top. That's fine. Just remove it. So in we go with my version of a bouquet garni. We can just hang it on there like that. That will flavour this broth in the most beautiful way. So salty, smoky, you know, porky. You're getting the flavour from the marrow inside the bone. You've got all those beautiful herbs and the celery. So this is a nice little part of our story. I've got another little hack that I think is really, really cool and fairly underrated. These are dried mushrooms. Okay, so this is a little bit of porcini and morels. So a bit more expensive, but it can be the cheapest mushrooms ever. But dried mushrooms give you that incredible, deep umami. And literally all you need is a little handful like this. See, like that. So whatever dried mushrooms you can get your hands on, just a little handful will go a long way. So just crunch them up in your hands and they will give incredible, deep, meaty, sort of earthy, umami flavors. You know, when you slurp on that, the flavor's just gonna go long, long, long. You'll fall in love with the bowl, and as you get halfway through it, you'll love it more and more. And it's because of these layers of flavors that you're investing. So, dried mushrooms, bouquet garni, a little stir here, and what I'm gonna do is just put another bit of log on the fire. I'm gonna let that simmer for about 2.5 hours, and I'll go back to that pork, and when I can pull it off the bone, we're in a good place to go. Now that's only half of the recipe, right? Because I need to get some root vegetables, I need to get some lovely winter greens because this is a winter soup, and I wanna really express what's out there in the markets or my garden. So let's go and do it. So at this time of year, It's cold. We've had quite a few frosts. And you can look at what's growing in the garden and you can just think it's barren. There's nothing going on. But actually, if you look, you can do quite well. Like, it looks miserable here, but you've got beautiful sprouting broccoli here. And it's what I call going grovelling at this time of year, like making the effort to get in there, and particularly the brassica family, cabbages, Brussels sprouts, sprouting broccoli, red cabbage, green cabbage, you know, all of that family, super nutritious. It's had a frost, so it's broken down some of the fibrous connective tissue, released some of those natural sugars. So actually, when it comes to veggies and nutrition, there's some really good stuff. I mean, look at that. So that, in our little broth, is going to be amazing. I love that sound. You know, all of these things really benefit from a frost. And the brassica family is, like, you know, so easy to grow, super nutritious, and whatever form they come in, from cabbages, white, red, Savoy, you know, Chinese style cabbages, Brussels sprouts, sprouting broccoli, they're just so delicious, you know, and in all the different age forms as well. Can you see? Like, these are all different sizes, but the same thing. You know, you can eat these whole, delicious. So even if they look a little bit beaten up, and maybe a little bit nibbled by something, you just put your knife in that little back bit of the root and you just peel off that outside layer, and it's just going to reveal the most beautiful little mini cabbage inside. Look at that. And you'll be left with something beautiful. Look at that. So here is the Brussels top, one of my favourite bits. So anything like a little bit caught, you can get rid of. But all of these leaves here are just juicy and delicious. Just raining down Brussels tops. These look beautiful. Oh my goodness gracious me. This is another level. So these are really nice. So on this massive stalk here, you can just click off. This is kind of like a Brussels sprout. It's a different variety. As I open it out, just look at the colours. You know, the light green hasn't seen any daylight. The dark green has. Super nutritious. You've got almost like a little bud, sort of almost Brussels-like cabbage there. Beautiful colours. So here, Swiss chard in all their glorious colours. Got some red here. So the stalks I'll cook separately. The leaves, gorgeous. And I tend to not just cut them off, but take the bigger leaves first, and they carry on growing. Look at the colours in here. So I love that idea that in winter you presume that it's miserable, depressing, and maybe it is, maybe that is true. But I like the idea that if you're a cook, whether you're growing your own stuff or just searching, you know, adventuring down the markets, supermarkets, even, you're finding colour, you're finding optimism. And of course, when you're making something as gorgeous and slurpy and therapeutic as a broth or soup or a stew, you know, you can really bring that to life. Look at that, just beautiful. I've picked it a little bit early, but I don't care because this broth is worth it. Look at that. A little Romanesco style cauliflower, and the leaves are really good. Celeriac, beautiful. So I've washed all those beautiful greens and I've got my root veg ready to go. After like 2.25 hours, I love how the broth has changed colour. Can you see how those little bits of fat are just on the top of the broth? So let's just remove this pork for a moment. Oh, it's falling apart. You know, it's tender when you can't even get it out. Look at that bone, right? So you can see the meat is so tender, right? It's handed over a lot of its seasoning, its salt, its smoke, its flavor. And this bone, look, you can see, it's gorgeous. That goes back in the broth. This can just stay out for a little while. Let's chop up some veggies. So simple, humble, cheap veggies, right? Carrots. So what I want to do is just prep up some veg and get it in that broth. So first up, some carrots, just half it and roughly chop it. Let's just push it into the broth. Then we're going to have some turnips. Now we've got the greens here. The turnip greens are really nice. So I'll just take those off and I'll save these for later. Turnips, super underrated. And again, just chop them up so you get roughly sort of 1-2 centimeter chunks like that. Look, beautiful. So for me, you know, this soup is absolutely all about celebrating the cheapest of ingredients. Onions, carrots, celery, probably the cheapest cut of pork, making litres of soup and being able to feed quite a large amount of people. Nourishing, nutritious, and, you know, flavours that make you feel like just really grateful and good. Celeriac from the garden. So I've given it a good wash, but you can see there's quite a lot of mud there. So I'll just trim that little kind of furry part off. So just cut off that root and then take off the end. With the celeriac, you can peel it if you wish. If it's nice and clean, you don't have to. You can see, actually, this is a little discoloured, and that's from the frosts that we've had. But don't let that put you off. It's nice and firm, and it's going to be utterly delicious. So, centimetre slices. And, you know, the way I'm cutting this veg on purpose is rough and ready and not perfect. So onions roughly chopped. Then we've got celery. Now what I like to do with the celery is just remove these beautiful leaves. These can be part of the greens going in. So if we just cook the life out of them, they're not as magnificent as they are. So we'll remove those. And the green celery leaves are slightly bitter, not so positive. The yellow ones, beautiful, fragrant, and a real gift. And basically you could use any root veg you can get your hands on. Swede is particularly good, but I haven't got any. So that goes in. I've got a potato. So just one potato, 200 grams, just diced up. Somehow just getting the odd little hit of potato, it absorbs that lovely seasoned smoky broth, and it's just so nice. So a little bit of spuds, not loads. And that's it. So what I'm going to do is now add some pearl barley. Have a little look at this. This is very, very old school British and sort of peasant food, really. And this will swell up when cooked in broth. It will triple in size and it will almost sort of plume out and it becomes soft and creamy and spongy. So it takes about 35 minutes to cook. So just let that rain down into the broth. And I'm going to let that just simmer now for another 35 minutes until the pearl barley is nice and tender. Then we'll go in with those beautiful greens that we picked, all chopped up nice. And that will be pretty much the end of this beautiful broth. Now, I know cooking over fire probably feels like really old school and rustic. It's a beautiful thing to do, right? Probably more cooking has happened like this than in a home, on a hob, in a stainless steel pan, right? Which is relatively new. But if you are at home, get your biggest pan. You can do this, make a beautiful batch of broth, enjoy it that weekend, and then you can save it for the week to come. You can even freeze it down. If you look, you've got the heat source here, then you've got the smoke, and the smoke's kind of licking around the top of the pan. So your standard like braise, ragu, bolognese, chili con carne, soup, you know, stew, is going to have that kissing of smoke that gives you that extra flavour. So it's a beautiful way to cook. So look, half an hour and then I'll finish the soup. So look, I've gone grovelling in the garden, had a little look around, but the same principle applies to you going down your local, you know, town market or even supermarket. Have a little look, see what's local. You know, there's always going to be local veggies that are at their best and most nutritious and cheapest. And like, there's nothing cheaper than the cabbage family, honestly. Like, it's not like you normally have to pay much for them, right? So what I tend to do now is just use my common sense to pick off the green leaves, right, and chop them up so they're nice kind of mouth-sized pieces. With things like stalk, obviously they're a bit more dense than the leaf, so we can just cut the stalk up, put it to one side, and we'll cook those a little bit more. And each one of these different veggies has a whole chemistry. And your body, when it's at its kind of most kind of cold, miserable, bit fluey, you know, when you're feeling a little bit, ooh, like this is the food that's going to bring you up. That's the power of cooking, right? Really nice thing to do. And you'll have leftover broth that can make risottos. You know, you can use the broth in other soups and stews. Any leftover veggies or bits of pulled ham hock, you know, you can put that with some cheese in a lovely toasty. It will make something truly magical. So look, common sense here. We have the little Brussels sprouts quartered to make them cook quicker, and the stalks of chard, they go in now. They only need 5 minutes, and we'll get that boiling again. So even though we've been simmering that ham hock for like 2.5 hours, you know, I don't want to so overcook the veg that it all goes grey and disappointing. So got some nice kale. Now the leaves can go in. Just load it up. And then the celery leaves and the turnip tops, we'll just clank these up and they can go in. So let's just get this fire roaring a little bit, and we'll lose now that bouquet garni. It's done its work, and it's done good work. Fragrance and herbs. That'll be composted. And let's give this a nice little stir. Get rid of the bone. And if I go deep into the pan, can you see how beautiful that pearl barley has swelled up, tripled in size? Give it a nice stir now. Look at the colours. So look, we got the ham hock here, and this outer skin can come off. There's nothing on here that I need. You could try and fry that up and get it crispy, which could be very nice. Amazing as a base to cooking off greens and spinach another day maybe. But if you look at the meat here, I'm just going to use my hands to pull it apart. So I'm just going to shred it. Pull off any other little bits of bone or skin. So in we go with this beautiful ham. Conker should have been here for this. He would have got a bit of ham. Conker! Conker! Like, he's going to miss out big time if you don't get here for this. This is, I'm going to take a little bit just for him, just in case he comes back. There you go. Right, let me go and wash my hands. Okay, let's stir that through. This is really coming together now. Look at the colours. Yes, properly gorgeous, rustic, old-fashioned cooking. This is something that my nan would have loved. My goodness, you know, real food, full of love. Okay, now for something not very traditional. I'm going to take a little creme fraiche, bit French, bit posh, some English mustard because they are our neighbours, and we should have a union of love. So heavy on the mustard, 2 teaspoons, with about 3 tablespoons of creme fraiche. And I'm going to mix that up to make a very hot cream. And that is going to be a really hot, creamy little sauce, and that going into your hot bowl of veggie ham hock broth with the pearl barley, with those little chunks of potato, and maybe a little bit of bread, right? Triple carbs, right? That is going to be a thing of joy. So not traditional at all, but I like it. Now is the time to serve. I've got a little bit of bread that I've been just toasting next to the fire, heating up. So get yourself a nice rustic bowl, mix that soup from the bottom so you get a little bit of everything. This all feels very good. Look at that. So there you go. Old school ham hock, veg, pearl barley, broth. Hot and steaming. Although certainly not British, if you've got good extra virgin olive oil, I just feel that this works so nicely. I'll take a little bit of this bread that's toasting up, just tear it in there. And that, with a little bit of that hot mustard creme fraiche, it just works. A nice pinch of pepper. Right, time to get in there. So I always start with a slurp. Delicious. So clean, so healthy. Deep flavours from the mushroom and the smokiness from the ham hock. Go to the bottom of the bowl and you get all that lovely pearl barley. Look at that, the colours, the pink, the yellow carrot. So good. You just know that this is good for you. And then pull that bread apart and just let it get soaked into all of that goodness. Get a little bit of that mustard creme fraiche. A little bit of that hot, nasal English mustard vibe. So good. It's a bowl of goodness that has all these different dimensions. Delicious. So there you go, lovely people. I mean, all right, I've got a fire going. We've gone old school, but ultimately the principles remain the same. Get your biggest pan, get down the market, buy cheap veg, seasonal veg, get that ham hock, and just spend a bit of time. It'll be hardly any work, it'll just be time. Time is the gift here. And then have a slurp up. Have something like this, it'll make you feel really, really good. Get your own little bowl and just enjoy.